When an ordinary person encounters the police, they usually comply with their demands, sometimes not even realizing that their rights are being violated. But what happens if the suspect not only has nerves of steel, but also real intelligence? My name is Knox, and today I will show you 8 incredible cases where teenagers literally took down the police using only their knowledge of the law and their ability to stay calm. Attention, this episode is pure proof that 200 IQ can overcome force from the get-go. A police officer from New Mexico, responding to a call about a minor student with alcohol, confidently heads to the dorm. In his mind, he runs through the standard script: find the culprit, confiscate the alcohol, fill out a couple of forms. But when he opens the door, he is met not just by a student, but by future lawyer Joel Martinez, who knows his rights as if he wrote the U.S. Constitution himself. "We were informed that you brought alcohol into the dorm. Is that true?" Joel sits calmly, as if he has been waiting for this moment his whole life. "I don't answer questions." Yes, that's exactly the answer that leaves any officer stumped. Now the officer needs to find a way out, and he decides to go on the direct attack. "Do you have an ID on you?" "Yes." "Can I see it?" "Do you suspect me of committing a crime?" "Yes." "Which one?" The officer starts to have difficulties. He mumbles something about alcohol, but Joel keeps pressing. "So you're basing this on someone's word without any evidence?" What happens next is a real show. Joel reminds the officer about the Fourth Amendment, which prohibits unreasonable searches, and about the lack of qualified immunity for the police in New Mexico. And you know what the officer does. He takes out his phone and Googles the laws. Seriously, just look at this. The officer comes back to Joel, already losing it. "You are required to show your ID, or I will arrest you. Say it plainly so I can use it as evidence against you in court." The officer is stunned. A sergeant enters the room, trying to ease the tension. "Listen, we just want to know if you have any alcohol. Show us your ID, and we'll leave right away." Joel remains unyielding. "You have no grounds. If you have a warrant, show it. Otherwise, I refuse." The cameras capture all the tense faces of the police, their attempts to prove something, and in the end, empty hands. The officers leave, and Joel calmly closes the door, smiling at his neighbor. "I think I've earned that beer." Who would have thought that an innocent gesture like the middle finger could turn a regular walk into a real legal battle? It all starts when a teenager, walking on the sidewalk, notices a patrol car. Well, as they say, he accidentally raises his hand and he shows the officer the middle finger. A second later, the car screeches to a halt. "Why did you flip me off?" "That's not a crime. It's a public order violation." "On what grounds?" "I just expressed my opinion." The officer starts to arrest the guy. "You are being detained for a public order violation." "No, I'm free." "On what grounds did you arrest me?" And that's where the magic begins. The teenager isn't just defending himself. He's going on the offensive. He knows that his actions are protected by the First Amendment, so his gesture is a form of free speech. But the officer isn't going to back down. The verbal exchange escalates into a real confrontation. The officer calls for backup, but the teenager keeps pushing his point. "You can't detain me just for my gesture. If you want to arrest me, show me a legal charge." A second officer arrives. Instead of easing the tension, he escalates it by trying to intimidate the teenager. "You think you're the smartest?" "No, I just know my rights. And here's the final touch." The police, realizing they can't do anything, are forced to let him go. Next time, think twice before making gestures at the police. And you think twice before violating my rights? Adam Pacho, on his way home from school, had no idea that his car would become the center of a whole drama. Suddenly, he is surrounded by several police cars with their sirens blaring. "Get out of the car! Show your hands!" Adam, not understanding what's happening, raises his hands and gets out of the car. "What's going on?" "Your car matches the description of a vehicle used in an armed robbery. This is some kind of mistake." The police conduct a search but find nothing. But that doesn't stop them. They call Adam's mother, and a few minutes later, she arrives at the scene. "What are you doing with my son? He just got out of school." "He has excellent grades, and you're treating him like a criminal." The police fumble, realizing they have no evidence. Soon, they are forced to admit that the arrest was a mistake. But Adam's mother decides not to let this go without consequences. You'll hear about this in court. Later, it turns out that the real suspect was driving a similar car, but with different plates. Adam and his family file a lawsuit against the police. How can taking a photo lead to an arrest? It's very simple. Why are you filming the windows? I'm photographing the building. Unconcerned about this. But I'm on the sidewalk. The police are trying to convince him to stop filming. But the guy knows his rights. This is a public place. I'm not doing anything illegal. Despite the pressure, he continues filming until he hears, "You are under arrest for disturbing the peace." On what grounds? There's no answer. They put him in handcuffs, but he doesn't give up. You know that your actions are illegal. The guy insists that his rights are being violated and demands explanations. One of the police officers, clearly annoyed, states in a raised voice, "We received a complaint that you are filming windows and disturbing the residents." A complaint is not evidence. Where does it say that I can't film a building from the sidewalk? The police officers start whispering to each other. One of them decides to call his supervisor to clarify the details. While he's on the phone, the second cop continues trying to convince the teenager that his actions might be illegal. "If you don't stop, we'll have to arrest you." The guy, not losing his composure, replies, "Fine, arrest me. Then we'll meet in court, where you will explain on what grounds you violated my right to film in a public place." The phone call is over, and the officer, clearly not in the best mood, returns to his colleagues. He whispers something in the second officer's ear. After a brief discussion, they take the handcuffs off the guy and say, "You're free, but be careful in the future." The guy replies with a smile, "You could use more caution than I could." After the incident, he posts a video that gains millions of views. It becomes a vivid example of how important it is to protect your rights even in the most unpleasant situations. Now imagine this scene. A teenager walks into the City Hall building with a camera. His goal is to shoot a video for his blog about the city's history. But as soon as he starts filming, he is interrupted by the main person in the building, the police chief. "You can't film here." On what grounds? This is a restricted area. Where is that stated? The police chief is clearly losing patience. "I'm asking you to leave the building. I'm asking. This is not an order. I have the right to be here." The chief grabs the guy by the arm and starts pushing him out of the building. "All of this is being recorded on camera. You're overstepping your authority. I'm doing my job. If your job violates my rights, that's not an excuse." When backup arrives, a real battle begins. The officers argue about what to do next. The teenager remains calm but persistent. "If you think I'm breaking the law, charge me. If not, let me finish filming." After lengthy negotiations, the officers, including the chief, are forced to admit that they have no right to prohibit filming. Jeff is sitting in a cold interrogation room. His hands are cuffed, and there's a slight smirk on his face. A police officer enters, holding a plastic cup with soda. Everything looks calm, but the tension in the room is palpable. "Jeff," the officer starts, "do you understand what situation you're in? We know you were there. Just tell your side of the story, and it might ease your situation." Jeff leans back in his chair, indifferent, glances at the officer, and replies, "Am I under arrest?" "Yes." "On what grounds?" "Armed robbery. We have evidence." "If you have evidence, why am I here?" The officer hesitated. He didn't expect such confidence. "We're trying to give you a chance to explain your side." "I need a lawyer to talk, not you. So no, I won't explain anything." The officer is clearly losing patience but tries to stay calm. He pours soda for Jeff and sets the cup in front of him. "It's just a misunderstanding, Jeff. We know you might have found yourself in a bad situation. Tell me where you were last night." Jeff stares intently at the cup, then at the officer and, as if mocking, asks, "Is this a cozy interrogation? Get me a lawyer and we'll talk." "Jeff, do you understand that things could get worse? If you stay silent, you're just cornering yourself." "No, I know that silence corners you, not me." The officer takes a deep breath and starts to change tactics. "We have video footage from the crime scene." "Great, show it to me." The footage shows a man in a black jacket, resembling you, exiting the store with a weapon. "Looking like me. Is that all you have? Do you really think this will help you in court?" "What will help in court is that you have no real evidence. Go on." Now, a tense silence hangs in the air. The officer realizes that he is losing control of the interrogation. "If you want to get out of here, you need to cooperate." "I'll get out of here without your cooperation." The officer leans forward, trying to apply psychological pressure. "Jeff, we know you were at the crime scene, just admit it." But Jeff maintains a stone-faced expression. "If you knew, you wouldn't be sitting here trying to make me talk." After long attempts to get any kind of confession, the officer leaves the room. 5 hours pass before Jeff is brought back in for questioning. This time, the officer is clearly tired and tense. "We have enough evidence to charge you." "Right. What exactly?" "We have a witness's testimony." "Who is that witness?" "That's none of your business." Jeff laughs. "You know why you're questioning me again? Because you have nothing. If you had something, you would have already charged me." The officer momentarily loses his composure. "You're just making it worse for yourself." No, you're the one making it worse. The officer realizes he has no options and ends the interrogation. A few hours later, Jeff is released due to lack of evidence. As he leaves, he turns to the officers and says, "Thanks for the soda. Next time be better prepared." This case serves as an example of how knowledge of your rights and composure can dismantle even the most confident attempts at pressure from law enforcement. Now imagine an evening in a small American town. Teenagers are carefree, riding scooters down the streets, laughing and exchanging jokes. But suddenly, everything changes when the figure of Police Chief Michael Chinney appears on the horizon. This evening is just beginning for them, but they don't yet know they will find themselves at the center of a conflict that will soon disrupt their peaceful lives. Chinney approaches with a menacing look, and his loud voice echoes down the street. "Stop immediately! You're disturbing the peace." The teenagers look at each other, not understanding what's happening. One of them, 19-year-old Parker, cautiously replies, "We're just riding. What have we done wrong?" And that's when the show begins. "You hit a cone," Chinney accuses. "That disrupts public order." "A cone?" Parker looks around, confused. Is it even legal to accuse someone of that? But the police chief is already in a confrontational mood. He pulls out a flashlight and starts waving it nervously, trying to intimidate the teenagers. "You have no right to threaten us." "I don't." Chinney steps closer, hitting Parker in the ribs with that flashlight. For a moment, time seems to freeze. The teenagers are stunned, but Parker remains composed. "You just committed an assault," he says, looking directly into the police chief's eyes. "It was recorded on video." Even the most stubborn person would start to doubt here. "But not me," he shouts. "This isn't assault. You provoked me." Parker silently pulls out his phone and dials the police. "Great," he says calmly. "Let's call in real officers. Let them handle it." And this is where things get really interesting. Another officer arrives on the scene, seemingly used to Chinney's strange antics. He starts to assess the situation, but the police chief tries to take control. "They were yelling, provoking me, threatening me," Chinney quickly says, pointing at the teenagers. But Parker interrupts. "It's all on video. He threatened me himself, and then hit me with a flashlight." The officer turns to Chinney, who starts to look less confident than a minute ago. "Michael, is that true?" Chinney, mumbling, tries to defend himself. "I was just defending myself." Defending herself from teenagers on scooters. The situation is clearly getting out of hand. The police officer is taking statements from Parker and his friends. They recount how Chinney, waving a flashlight, tried to intimidate them and blinded them with the light. When the video from the scene hits the internet, a real storm begins. Chinney is temporarily suspended from work and faces charges of assault. But the most interesting part is that Parker, this calm and self-assured teenager, becomes a real hero in his neighborhood. His story is proof that even in the face of authority, it's important to know your rights and keep your composure. And while Chinney prepares for court, Parker is already proving that sometimes victory is not just in the law, but in the courage to stand up against the system. But what would you do in similar situations? Would you keep your cool like Parker, or would you crumble under pressure? What do you think? Should police chiefs like Chinney be given a second chance? Or should such actions be strictly punished? Share your thoughts in the comments. And I, friends, want to make you an interesting offer. You have a unique opportunity to become part of our team. If you have video editing skills, you can voice over videos in Russian, English, and other languages, or write interesting scripts. We would be happy to work with you. Message our Telegram bot. The link is in the description. That's all for today. Good luck to everyone and see you next time.